looking for a reason or video to convince you not to buy the Marantz Model 50, then you should stop watching this video now, because I'm going to tell you all the things I love about this amplifier and why I'm considering buying it myself. And of course, if you wouldn't mind just liking this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon for notifications, I'd really appreciate it. It helps me get more amazing products like this in for review. Cheers. This is what integrated amplifiers are all about. It's an all-analog affair. No streaming, no DAC, no Bluetooth. If you want those, you can look at the Model 40N. This is an expert merging of a preamplifier and amplifier into one beautiful chassis that you can live with for the rest of your life. This is my first go-around with a Marantz integrated amplifier. I'd seen them in the past, and as a bit of a noob at this, I just always considered them to be an AV receiver company. I've only ever really owned Marantz AV receivers because they were the prettiest ones out of the bunch. But now, getting this in my hands, I kind of see what all the hype is about. The Marantz Model 50 is an old-school, analog-only integrated amplifier. And because of this, my preconceived notions of what an integrated amplifier should have on board requires a bit of rethinking. The three things I usually look for are tone controls, home theater bypass, and HDMI eARC. This being analog-only, it only has two of them. And this not having any digital connectivity means no HDMI, which usually I count as a strike against an amplifier, but this being all analog, Marantz clearly making a design choice with this amplifier, I get it. But also, if I'm to be truthful, the way I use an amplifier in my setup is quite a bit different. My living room is dual purpose. I watch movies and listen to music in there. And usually I just go front, left, and right pre-out from the AV receiver into the integrated, taking the load off my AV receiver while also giving me enough juice to properly power a more demanding pair of speakers up front. So for my sample size of one use case, HDMI really isn't that important to me. Looks-wise, this thing is drop-dead gorgeous. You can't really tell in photos or video, but side by side, the integrateds dog walk the AV receivers. It's not even close. They may superficially look the same. Hell, the front fascia is almost identical, but they're not the same. The Model 50 is heavier, sturdier, deeper, but it also just feels elevated. The knobs have a really nice feel to them. I feel compelled to keep fiddling with them because they're really nicely weighted. But the downside is my greasy fingers sometimes just muck up the front face of the product, and I have to spend a few minutes cleaning them just to get them camera ready. First world problems, I know. It's a product that I just want to interact with. I can only imagine how good this thing looks in that pearl finish as well, but this black suits my room perfectly. The premium feel extends to the back of this too. The analog connections are high quality, the phono connections are premium as well. You also get a record out, a sub out, power amp in, 2 sets of gorgeous and robust binding posts. The remote is essentially the same as the AV receivers, just with a different assortment of buttons. Still, it's nice, and the design carries that elevated aesthetic through. This retails for $2,000 US. Frequency response is 5 Hz to 20 kHz. Total harmonic distortion is 0.02%, and it has a damping factor of 100. Also, it's rated at 70 watts into 8 ohms and 100 watts into 4. And I don't do any measurements, nor do I quite understand all the engineering that goes into the components for these amplifiers. But to me, this seems as powerful as any other amplifier that I've had in-house. So whatever voodoo Marantz is doing to these products, this 70 watts is more than enough for most speakers that I've had in-house. I have the Model 50 on my media unit alongside the Marantz Cinema 70 with a center channel between the two. I've been an extremely happy monkey over the last couple of months, having this integrated and a whole slew of amazing speakers to pair with it. I use them with the Q-Acoustics 5040s, the Dali Opticon 6s, the Martin Logan F10, and the Arendal 1528 Slim. Even the ELAC Unify Reference, a speaker that I didn't think I would have enjoyed very much. But for whatever reason, the Model 50 is the amplifier that made the ELAC sing. So now I'm going to have to do a take 2 on that speaker because all of a sudden, I don't think they sound that bad. Though, if I'm being honest, the speaker that I loved the most was the Martin Logan F10s. You know, if you've seen my channel, that I've been absolutely smitten with those. This would be my reference gear if I was to just run out and purchase stuff that made me happy sonically and visually. They look gorgeous next to this amplifier. If you get the F10s in the walnut finish, they have a complementary color scheme. Black front fascias with gold accents. It's kind of a match made in heaven. I remarked in another review, I think it was my Dali review that I did for Home Theater Secrets, but it sounds like a big cozy pillow of an integrated amplifier. Everything sounds big, robust, tonally rich, with a bunch of detail, but without sounding grating or clinical to my ears in any way. It's kind of the perfect sound signature for me. Every speaker that I connected to it was better for it. And when I say it's tonally rich, it just means that it feels like it imparts a bit of warmth and richness to all my music. And if you're looking for a completely neutral, bare bones, true to the source, revealing amplifier, this isn't that type of amplifier. This is, if you love your music, you want it to sound good from the jump, just connect a pair of speakers and go, this is the perfect amplifier. My old friend Shude posted something on Facebook. It was a track listing of some old CFNY tunes. If you're not over 40 and from Toronto, you have no idea what that means, but CFNY was a radio station from Toronto that played awesome music before they got bought out and became a crappy alternative station. But this track listing had some really awesome tunes on it. Here's some of them here. The tracks that stood out for me were 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8. The thing that stood out the most was because I listened to so much bass music that how little bass was in any of these tracks or how dominant it was in them. Instead, I was just treated to like a nice wall of sound in my small little 12 by 10 space. The Opticon 6s have a hybrid tweeter, so there is a lot of detail in those highs. If you want to sharpen them at all, you can just turn up the treble a touch, but I find leaving the treble flat on the Model 50 works perfectly well for my ears. I'm a little sensitive to high, so on certain amplifiers, I like just turning it down, but on this Model 50, it's not rolled off, but it's not overly accentuated. It's more of a romanticized top to bottom sound, which is more pleasing to my ears overall. And then switching gears completely to Halogenics' new LP, Passions, the first track, Keeping You Close, is a nice chill, mellow vibe, and the first thing that stands out is how open everything sounds, and the low end has a decent amount of body. The other track, Passions, has an awesome bass stab that goes along with the first kick and those short sustained percussion hits. There's tons of clarity and detail with no strain or edginess up top. And then switching over to the Martin Logan F10s, paired with the Dynamo 10 subwoofer via the CXN V2, gives me a huge and weighty sound. Dropping Replicant from Benny L sounds absolutely massive. It's essentially a drum and bass Blade Runner, and honestly, I don't know why I like it so much. It's that modern jump-up distorted drum and bass that can sometimes get grating to my ears over time, and on this speaker with this amplifier, again, it just doesn't. It just remains sharp and clear. I also should note that on these F10s, if I did turn off the subwoofer, there's a decent amount of bass coming out of these speakers already, so if you have a smallish room, you don't necessarily need a subwoofer, but if you're a bit of a bass fiend like me and you're playing jump-up drum and bass, you want a subwoofer. It just sounds better overall. And then switching genres to cinematic orchestra, All Things to All Men featuring Roots Manuva. This is kind of my everything track. It's orchestral vibes, it's tight drums, there's tons of percussion, there's horns, there's a guy rapping over the whole thing. It slowly builds and it explodes, and it sounds really full and robust. I ran this on the EXA 100 as well, and if you crave detail and slightly more dynamics, then I would recommend that amplifier over this. The closer comparison would be the Iota VX SA3 and PA3 stack. It is 2 boxes, it is not as attractive, but it is cheaper, and it does just about everything the Model 50 does, just with a little bit more power. The phono input is nice, and being an analog-only amplifier, you would expect this much. And it's one of the few times that I couldn't wait to take the Alpha TT off Bluetooth and directly connect it to the phono stage in an amplifier. And this phono stage, it was a little bit warmer, a little more richer than the phono stage inside the TT itself. I think it sounded better. And then switching to the Q Acoustic 5040s, running Love Theme from Spartacus by Terry Callier. This is my go-to acoustic track because really, I don't really listen to a lot of acoustic music. At the beginning of the track, there is a bit of noise that is clearly audible. And on certain amplifiers, like the EXA 100, it's a bit more forward and I can notice it more. On this amplifier, it's a bit more subdued. I don't hear it as much. It's still there. It's just not as clearly audible. And on the Iota VX stack, I don't hear it at all. So the Model 50 kind of comes in as perfect porridge to me. I also found myself on the Q Acoustics listening to a lot of Golden Age hip-hop. It's kind of my adolescence here. P-Rock, Seal Smooth, Gangstar. A lot of that stuff is pretty grimy, and it sounds great on this amp and speaker combination. There's just enough detail so you can hear all of your favorite music, but it's not so revealing that it exposes poor recordings. Like when I ran Wu-Tang on the EXA100 from Cambridge Audio paired with the ELAC Unifier reference. That sounded horrible. I didn't enjoy it at all. So for a lark, I decided to connect the Model 50 to the ELAC Unifier reference when I first got it in. And to my surprise, all my Golden Age hip-hop sounds a little more full, a little more warmer, just a little more pleasing to my ears. And I thought I needed gobs of power to properly drive that speaker. But it turns out I just needed to find the right amplifier. So I'm going to have to do a take 2 on that whole thing. And then there's the Rendell 1528 Slim speaker. I love a Rendell and I love these speakers, but these are the slim and the smallest speakers from the 1528 lineup that would properly fit in my space, and they're still too big for my space. It's so crazy. Rendell speakers, these are meant to be wall mounted as surrounds. And if these are surrounds in your room, I can only imagine that your home theater kicks ass, because in my room, these kick ass as fronts. So everything about the Model 50 is perfect, except for one thing. There's always one thing. When I'm using this in power amp mode, taking a signal from the Marantz Cinema 70, and I specify that the speakers are going to be receiving a full range signal, I usually have a subwoofer connected to the stereo amp, and the subwoofer is not active, which kind of defeats the purpose of running a full range signal from the Cinema 70 into this power amp. If none of my speakers can truly handle a full range signal, I almost always want a subwoofer connected to my front speakers, especially for music. And when I'm streaming HEOS from the Cinema 70 into this amp, I don't get any sub whatsoever. I only do if I connect the CXN V2 to another input, take it off of power amp mode, then the subwoofer output is active, then my music sounds better. That's the one deal breaker. Look, I absolutely love this thing, and I've delayed doing this review for as long as humanly possible because at the conclusion of this review, I'm going to have to send it back, and it's not really in the cards for me to own another amplifier at this moment in time, but in the future, when I do, I can easily see this as my dedicated reference 2-channel amplifier of choice, especially when I do move, and I talk about moving all the time because I can't wait to get out of this closet of a condo. I'm going to get a slightly larger space with a dedicated 2-channel area, most likely where my turntables go. And in that space, the Model 50 can easily be the amplifier of choice because it has the sound that I like, it has all the features that I need. It's kind of perfect to my ears. Maybe they'll let me hang on to this for an extended period of time, but there are also a lot of other products from their 2-channel lineup, Marantz's 2-channel lineup, that I can't wait to hear. And if this is any indication, then those must sound awesome as well. Thanks for watching.